Perhaps you've seen that birdish type creature with a long beak, and it uses that long beak to peck at possible food in the grass in the gardens. Now, the next time you see a creature, whether in the air, on the ground, in the water, I want you to think about how that creature is expressing its potential. You are also a creature that is expressing its potential. But the important question is not that should you or shouldn't you express your potential. The important question is, what is special about the human potential? We've been speaking up the hill at the temple some mornings about how many people have the notion, and perhaps you can find this in yourself, many people have the notion that as long as I get to fulfill my potential, to show my potential in life, that's all I need. If I can express my potential and have others recognize my potential, then I'll have no unfinished business in life, and I can just move on to whatever is beyond. I'll be peaceful about it. Try to understand the emphasis built into you about just express your potential. Show your talents. Find your talents. Express yourself. And then that's what life is all about. What's contained, what's implicit in that conception is that, well, maybe the universe is not a hostile place, but it's certainly an indifferent place. You're in the darkness, so you might as well show your own light. Sounds good, doesn't it? Turn on your torch, your way. What else can you do amidst the universe of darkness and indifference? So there's so much pressure on you There's so much pressure on you to be yourself, whatever that is. So you may recall your teenage years. Everyone can remember the teenage years? I don't think we have any teenagers here. But you can remember your teenage years in which you were trying to discover who you are. You didn't know. You were subject to so much peer pressure. What are the others doing? What do the others think of me? How does my body look to others? That's life as a teenager into your early 20s. And then later in life, you're caught up in another paranoia. Once you get past 40 into your 50s and 60s, the paranoia doesn't stop. It changes to, instead of, who am I? It now becomes, how do I stay true to myself? Adults always have that lamentation. Have I lived a life that's true to myself? An informal survey was done of the major regrets that Australians in the last days of their life at hospices, their last major regrets. And you don't want to have these regrets, although they're so common. One was, why didn't I allow myself to express the way I really am? Why didn't I express love at the right time? Why didn't I express anger at the right time? Why didn't I just have a self-expression that was more true? Another one, why did I allow myself to work so hard? Another one is, why didn't I keep in contact with my friends? Why did I allow circumstances to separate myself from my friends? And most of all, why didn't I allow myself to be more happy? So as I was explaining, the latter part of your life is about the battle to be true to yourself. It's like a losing battle. What happened to that self that I am? Circumstances, job, family, society has just overpowered me, and now I am at the last phase of my life. How do I grab back my real identity? So it's different from when you're a teenager, in which you're trying to find your identity. But that's not all. In between those two phases, the teenage years and the tail end of life, you're in a state of crisis. Am I really the self that I think I am? So as a teenager, you've got to find yourself. And as an old person, you regret that you got off track and lost yourself. But in between, you're in anxiety. Am I really what I think I am? And this way, your whole life disappears. You may have heard the popular saying, be yourself, because all the other persons are already taken. You've got no other alternative than be yourself. But watch out. Often when you see people say they're being themselves, you can almost be sure they're imitating others. It's a big industry these days. Self-actualization, self-affirmation. So people are always talking about that kind of stuff. You've probably heard it all the time. I'm looking for me. I want to be self-actualized. I want to do me. I want to be there for me. I want to be at a place where I can be me. Often, whenever you hear those kind of slogans and buzz phrases, please run the other way. It's very catchy. It's very cool to say those kind of things. But hopefully your being here at the Krishna village gives you insight into, first of all, how people don't have a clue of what they are because they don't know their identity beyond the body and mind. And secondly, they have no idea what they are part of. What is the ultimate reality of which they are component parts? They have no idea. And finally, especially those of you into the yoga scene, the meditation scene, should know that our life is actually a quest for the unlimitedly attractive. That is the ultimate goal of yoga and meditation. But mistakenly, we're searching for that in the material sphere, the material domain, the material dimension. We want attractiveness. You're looking for that in other persons, right? You want someone who can attract you. And of course, you would like to feel that you are attractive. What's life? Just think about it. What would be your life without any attractiveness in it? No matter how minimal your finances, your personal finances may be, still you get some little trinket or a little knick-knack or something to make your abode look better, make your body look better. It's just a natural part of human life to try to add some attractiveness and thirst for more attractiveness. You think about your partner or your potential partner. Is he or she attractive enough? Could I be doing better? You're looking for emotional attractiveness, right? And of course, physical attractiveness. My point is that this way or that way or the other way, you're looking to be attracted. You want attractiveness in your life. Music, art, companionship, or sports play such an important role in Australia. All the Aussies know that. You know that Google just released its search rankings for all the countries in the world in various categories. And for Australia, 7 out of the top 10 Google searches were about sports. 7 out of the top 10 searches. People are looking for attractiveness in the skills, the athleticism of others. So once you understand that your life is a quest for attraction, then you can start to shape your life around what is the ultimate source of attractiveness. And that is why the Krishna factor is so important. Because Krishna literally means the unlimited source of attractiveness. How often have we thought that attractiveness has a source? We don't even think that energy as ordinarily known has a source. Where does food come from? Woolies, yes. Where does water come from? The tap, yeah. Where does air come from? Air comes from the heat pump, if you're ecologically efficient, or it comes from an air conditioner, or if you're in a cold climate, from a heater. That's where air comes from. And where does waste go? Into the rubbish bin. That's the end of it. So we're not even aware of the ordinary sources and destinations of the energy we use. We're so disconnected from nature. So you don't ordinarily think, what is the source of the air? What is the source of the water? And you certainly don't ordinarily think, what is the source of all beauty, all attractiveness? So the Bhakti Yoga text explains to you that Krishna is unique, not only because Krishna is the source of all energy, but also because Krishna is the source of unlimited beauty. So as my teacher, Srila Prabhupada, would often explain, you've all seen a little bit of beauty here, there, and everywhere. But where have you ever seen unlimited beauty? unlimited beauty is not possible on the material plane. Everything on the material plane has some limitation. Time is a limitation. Space is a limitation. But Krishna's beauty is unconstrained. It's beyond time and space. So once we understand ourself as beyond the body and mind, and also in relation to Krishna, then our yoga and meditation practice has finally reached its conclusion. Just going to put on this shawl. It's a little chilly for me. I know it's fine for you. So what is inhibiting our search for Krishna? We have this notion embedded in us, and maybe you've been at parties where you've all chanted this mantra, YOLO. I know they do that in New Zealand. Maybe they do it in Australia also? Huh? Yes, a little, yes. You're feeling the pressure of the moment. You only live once. You only live once. That means you've got one shot to hit the mark. That's pressure. And it's also fear. I've got to score. There's no second chance. My life has to show its potential. I've got to get the best, and I've got to get it now. So you're always sifting and sorting through all the affairs of your life, right? What about my work? Am I passionate about my job? What about my relationships, my partner? Is this really the one for me? Am I happy right now? You're always you're constantly analyzing, because you only live once. You've got to cram everything into a short lifespan, right? You've got to choose the right career, especially these days. Anything that's professional or semi-professional involves some training. And so if you choose the wrong career path, whether professional or semi-professional, you could be wasting years, because you have to take time to become certified in this, certified in that. And then you go through all that, and then you realize, I don't really like that. Some of you have done that? I have a relative who spent 4 years studying engineering, and then 2 months before graduation decided, I don't like engineering. So he didn't finish, much to his parents' consternation. He didn't finish. And then he took a break for a couple of years. After his 4 years of uni studying engineering, he took a break. And then he decided to become a nurse, which meant more years. So the whole family was kind of scratching their heads like, you just don't do that, you know? Whether you like engineering or not, you were 2 months short of graduation. Doesn't matter what you like. You are what you studied for 4 years. Pick up the ball and run with it. Grow up. But he was feeling, no doubt, I gotta be me. My potential, I can't see my potential being expressed as an engineer. So there's this pressure on you. You've got to make the right choice now. Of course, with relationships, that's not so much of an issue as it is with work life. Why is that? Relationships, you pick them up and you put them down, right? Sorry, it's just not working out. How many of you have said things like that? And as I often point out, you may have heard me explain this before, you can choose the humble way to back out of a relationship. I know some of you have tried it, yes? Some of you have done this. Look, I know it's me. I'm the problem. You're good. I mean, believe me, you're good. But I know I've got issues. How many of you have backed out of a relationship in that way? Raise your hands. Thank you for the honesty. It sounds good, doesn't it? So relationship pressure is not as intense as it used to be because you feel you can chop and change them on the fly. Although after a while the heart starts to ache for some kind of relationship you can depend on. Especially once you get out of the turbulent 20s. You start looking for stability. Because you want to try to find your soulmate, your lifelong partner, even though you know the odds are against you. And it's impossible to predict when you enter into a relationship. It's impossible to predict whether it's going to last or not. So, you just got to what? Get on the playing field, and let's see what the score is at the end of the match. Right? Or it's like a casino. You got to spin the roulette wheel, and you could lose big, you could win big, but you got to play the game because what else is there to do? The pressure is on you to maximize your life. The Bhakti Yoga text will explain that this notion of YOLO is a blight. It's like a destructive cyclone on true human life. The real human potential is not expressed in activities that all the creatures you see on this farm do. So I want you to study those creatures as you walk around and think, this creature is expressing its potential. How is my human expression any different? The creatures hook up, don't they? They do all the activities that we do, eating, sleeping. They fight, they defend themselves, they procreate. How is the human potential being expressed differently? So this is what the Bhakti Yoga preceptors see as the tragedy today. Human beings do not know how to express their unique potential. They're imitating what other creatures do who lack the advanced gift of human consciousness. So please keep that important precept in the forefront of your mind. What does it mean to be human? Am I actually fulfilling my human potential? Do I know what it is? So besides this pressure you're feeling because you've got one shot to hit the target, think about that. There's also FOMO, fear of missing out. These days, you don't have to live the same kind of life your parents lived, but in previous times, that was the way it was. Whatever family you were born into, that pretty much demonstrated or revealed the kind of life that you were going to live. Society, traditions, religions said, this is your life, and you just accepted that. So you didn't have much so-called self-actualization. You didn't have much room for that. And you didn't worry about it. You probably worked a job 102 years ago in agriculture, or you worked a job in a factory, and all your roles were defined for you. But now, you have the burden of living the best life you can in this short amount of time because you only live once. So the FOMO combines with the YOLO. It's a deadly cocktail for devastating your human life. Just think about walking in a hallway of mirrors. You see all the reflections of yourself in the mirrors, especially mirrors that can shape your image in various ways. So you're walking through the hallway of mirrors and you see different so-called you see reflections of you, but the reflections are bent in this way and that way. So you can start wondering as you're walking in that hallway of mirrors, which is the real me? Maybe it's this one that's kind of oblong shaped. Maybe it's that one that's blurry. In the same way, what's so prevalent these days, what's so widespread these days is worrying about the life you could have lived. Because you're supposed to have options. A healthy life means to have choices, not just one thing. This is how my parents lived, this is how I will live. This is what society stamps me, so that's the way I am. No, you want to feel you have a whole spread of options in front of you, and that will make you happy. So therefore, there's always the anxiety about the life you could have lived. Even as a teenager, there's that anxiety. And it increases into your 20s, 30s, 40s. There's always the what if factor. What if I had chosen, before COVID hit, to travel to London instead of Thailand? What if I had chosen to hook up with this one and not that one? Maybe the relationship could have lasted a month longer. Have you ever thought about this? It's very contemporary and unique for the times we're living in. The life you could have lived. It makes you wonder that is it or will it ever be possible to have a life in which I don't wonder about the life I could have lived? This psychology is there because people are not satisfied. And they're not satisfied because they don't know what their human life is truly meant for. Because we live in a consumer society, there's so much pressure on us. Others are getting this, why don't you have it? And social media inflames this mentality. Look around. Don't you see others are happier? Don't you see others have better looking bodies than you? What are you going to do about it? Others are having peak experiences and you're not. Others are having happy relationships and you're not. Maybe if you try this mouthwash, it'll improve your... Sounds ridiculous, but when you're bombarded with this all the time, it shapes your unconsciousness. So this fear of missing out is based on what the yoga text will say is the false confidence that there is something substantial known as material happiness. Now this yoga discipline and yoga purification to understand. That material happiness is insubstantial. It's smoky, hazy stuff. That's why you desperately try so hard to get your hands on it, right? But then it just dissipates. It disappears so quickly. So especially the Bhakti Yoga texts explain that not only is material happiness insubstantial, but it's also the quest for it is insatiable, can't be satisfied. Even when you get what you want, it doesn't satisfy you for long. Therefore, it's not real satisfaction, because that so-called satisfaction comes and goes so quickly. But we're so desperate, what do we say? I don't care if it disappears so quickly. I had it for a moment, right? You feel very proud of yourself. We almost had it all. Almost is good enough, right? Almost is as good as it gets in this world. We console ourselves. Our friends console us. You know, this is life, you know. This is as good as it gets, you know. I used to think that during my late teens, early 20s, enjoying the nightlife in Manhattan in New York City. I lived in Manhattan after I finished university. And I was deep into the concert and cafe and nightclub scene in Manhattan. I thought, well, this is as good as it gets. I don't think it's all that everyone says it is, but you got to do something in life, right? So I guess it doesn't get any better than this. Don't blame me. I didn't make this world. Did you know that some people actually get angry that how is it that I'm living in a universe that I didn't create? Think about that. They're so full of themselves. Those kind of persons can never accept that there's a supreme controller, and certainly they'll never accept that there is a supreme source of attractiveness. This resentful, angry attitude. How dare it happen that I live in a universe that I didn't create? They urge you. There's probably no ultimate controller, ultimate source. So forget about that and just go on and enjoy your life. Don't let those spiritual fairy tales impede your hedonistic quest. But you'll notice these days that even the grossest materialist likes to kind of delve into quasi-spirituality from time to time. How do they do that? In the name of wellness and wellness therapies. You can partake of wellness and wellness therapies while at the same time denying that you're accessing any or accepting any spiritual reality. No, I'm not into that spiritual stuff. But, you know, a bit of mindfulness, you know. Mindfulness swimming, mindfulness partnering, mindfulness baking, you know. Mindfulness showering. Yeah, I've got a few alternative therapists in Byron Bay, you know. You can be a gross materialist, but you can get away with that these days. Here's how to cut the pie, how to separate the wheat from the husk. Look at how you're searching for attractiveness, and then you'll understand you're actually searching for Krishna. Once you realize you're searching for Krishna, you'll stop this ceaseless yearning for satisfaction in a temporary body, in a temporary world. So does that mean all you have to do to stop being a gross materialist is to stop your material activities? No. Bhakti yoga begins from that point. It doesn't end at that point. It begins at the point when you put a brake on your material activities. And then what do? Just become a zero? Become nothingness? There's no such thing as your ever being nothing or zero. Krishna explains this in the very beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Never was there a time when you were not an individual. There's no time like that now. It wasn't in the past, it's not now, and never in the future will there be a time when you're not an individual. So this basic Bhakti yoga precept scares a lot of people because you think, you mean I'm an individual eternally? Oh gosh. This one lifetime has been bad enough. So maybe some of you have had some leanings toward voidism, zeroism. Just extinguish the self. You might have tried to do that and noted you were completely unsuccessful. I often tell the story of when I was traveling through Thailand and meeting the monks there in Thailand, and particularly one monk who ran a famous ashram where many persons from the UK and Germany and the Netherlands would come, and they would do 10-day silent retreats. And after the 10-day silent retreat, maybe some of you know, they would go to this special party island in Thailand. Who's been there? Yes. What's the name? Yes. So 10 days of silent meditation on the incoming and outgoing breath, and then to that special island and just go wild. So I talked to the monk who ran this ashram and retreat center, and he had been a monk for about 20 years, and he told me one perplexity. He said during those 20 years of his monkhood at his Vipassana retreat, he decided to spend 5 years in solitude in a hut, meditation hut outside the walls of the ashram. 5 years alone, just meditating on the incoming and the outgoing breath, noticing the changes in the mind according to the type of breath. You'll get quite some physiological knowledge that way, but it's not spiritual. You'll just understand breathing and mental changes. But many people think that's spiritual. Anyway, he did that for 5 years. And you can just imagine, you can conceptualize how detached from material influence he must have been. 15 years as a monk and 5 years as a solitary monk. But he confessed that after that 5 years, he was still in that hut by himself. And one day, a villager rode his bicycle nearby. And as what often happens in villages in second or third world countries, they like to carry big radios with them and blast the radios as they're riding on their bike. And so someone came riding by with their radio blasting on their bicycle, blasting a song, a syrupy song from the 50s. Tell Laura I love her. Tell Laura I need her. And the monk said, I don't understand what happened to me. Hearing that song, tears were rolling down my cheeks. I said, why? He said, why? After 20 years of meditational practice, a syrupy song like that produces such an involuntary reaction in me. So I began to explain to him that you haven't addressed the ultimate goal of meditation, which is to understand and connect with the supreme source of attractiveness. You can't live your life just on negation, the negative. Not this, not that, no, no. Yes, I mean no. You can't sustain your spiritual development in that way. There has to be the supreme positive. And the supreme positive involves unlimited beauty. You haven't experienced that in the material domain, but that's what you're looking for. So Bhakti Yoga involves not your material senses, but the spiritual senses that your material senses are covering or obscuring. So the whole process of Bhakti Yoga is not about negating all sense activity. It's about changing the inferior sense activity for the superior sense activity. So it's the chanting of Hare Krishna, engaging your tongue and your ear, that awakens the spiritual usage of all your spiritual senses. This means that the more you understand Krishna, the more you are truly spiritual. You can't be truly spiritual without knowing and experiencing the ultimate source of beauty, because you want beauty, attractiveness in your life. But you try to get a pinch from here, a pinch from there, a dash here, a dash there. Where do you get the source of unlimited beauty? That's what the Bhakti Yogis want. So finally, we come to the point of the Bhakti gamble. You see, sometimes when you're driving on the motorway, you pass exits, and you can exit the motorway here or wait a few more kilometers, exit there. So part of FOMO, fear of missing out, is, gosh, as I was living my life, I passed on the motorway of my life, I passed by that exit, I passed by that exit. I wonder what would have happened if I had taken that exit. So being here at New Govardhana, you undoubtedly start to wonder, this is a very interesting side exit off the main motorway. I wonder, could I be a Bhakti yogi? I think there's great hope for all of you to do that. Why? Because you're more sincere and more fortunate than I was. When I first heard a Bhakti yogi explaining about the lifestyle, I was at my last month in fact, at Yale University, and I turned on the television to get some relief, and I saw these strange looking persons dressed in funny clothes, men with shaved heads. This was 1972. It's no big deal now, but in 1972, the typical reaction when seeing someone dressed in that way was, who are these aliens? Vegetarianism was very rare. Yoga was very rare. No one talked about meditation. So I saw these strange looking persons, the Hare Krishnas. And I listened to how they explained their lifestyle, the things they didn't do. When I heard the things they didn't do, I mean, after all, I was 21 years old, at the peak of the male hormone cycle. So when I heard what they didn't do, and also what they did do, rising 4 a.m. in the morning, I turned to my flatmate and I said, "These people are fools. They keep talking about Ananda, bliss, as the ultimate goal of life." I immediately learned that word from them, Ananda. So they talk about Ananda, bliss. We'll invite them to one of our parties. We'll show them what Ananda is. So therefore I know there's complete hope for you. The next month after I said those words, I ran into Bhagavad Gita as it is. And 8 months after I said those words, I was living in the Bhakti Yoga ashram in New York City. So I have sufficient reason to have complete conviction that bhakti is possible for everyone. But what might produce some hesitancy in you is the fear of missing out. If I start following that bhakti lifestyle, I could be missing out on a lot of good stuff. But how good is that stuff? That's the question. Real knowledge means to understand that so-called good stuff is insubstantial and your desire for it is insatiable, even though it's insubstantial. What you're getting, it's a ripoff. But we're too proud to admit it. And your friends and society won't let you give up the hunt, right? Keep trying, come on, come on. You might have failed, but just keep going. You'll score. Well, anyway, there's nothing else to do in life. So you have this insatiable, unquenchable desire for something that always turns out to be insubstantial. But the illusion is too good. We can't just give it up, even though we're being kicked again and again. This is why the Bhakti Yoga lifestyle is required. I call it lifestyle engineering. You shape your lifestyle so that you go to the higher level, and in that way you escape the grip of the lower level. Without a superior lifestyle, it's not possible. You'll be gamed on again and again and again. And each time you'll tell yourself, oh, I'm never going to do that again. Right? And you do it again. In this way, not only do you repeat the same mistakes throughout one life, but lifetime after lifetime. Krishna talks about this in Bhagavad Gita. Birth after birth, a super fool. Because we just make the same mistakes again and again, lifetime after lifetime. All this complexity can be easily solved when we understand what is our real human potential, what is real human expression. So the Bhakti Yogi feels the impetus, the power of the real purpose of human life. I have advanced consciousness that the human body gives. I must become self-realized. And self-realized means to understand not only what you are, but what you are part of. We're tiny samples of Krishna, but we're not Krishna. We're meant to coordinate ourselves cooperatively with the unlimitedly attractive Krishna. And in that way, we also become attractive. But right now, we're like sparks that have jumped out of the fire and lost our fiery quality. When actually in our original situation, as spiritual sparks, we're meant to be dancing in the fire. That is the complete whole, that is Krishna. The sparks as individuals exist in harmony with the blazing fire. That's also an individual. So this is the conclusion of the yoga system. This is the top rung of the yoga ladder. Kindergarten in the yogic system is to understand you're not the body and mind. But most people never get that much. At the top rung of the yoga ladder, it's all about relationship with the supreme, unlimitedly attractive Krishna. So finally, you're worried. If I take to the bhakti path, what could I be missing? I have this fear of missing out, and I know material life is an illusion, but it's something. Is it really anything else? I don't know for sure. Should I gamble on Krishna? You ask me, what do I say?
Yes.
Yes, because you'll never lose. You'll never lose, so much so that even if you, and Krishna explains this in the 6th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, even if you take to the transcendental lifestyle, the lifestyle beyond the material, and then you succumb to worldly mindedness, you succumb to become a slave of your senses again, and still your spiritual credits are never lost. Even if you don't do anything else about your spiritual development for the rest of your life, what you did do stays with you, not only for this lifetime, but into your next lifetime. Now, what kind of school credits can you get like that? So Krishna addresses all your concerns in Bhagavad Gita. You may fear that if I take to bhakti and I drop it later, I'll have lost my material happiness and I'll have lost my spiritual happiness. I'll get nothing. Right? You're all self-interested, and so you're worried. Okay, I throw the bhakti dice. I say yes, I'll take shelter of Krishna, the ultimate goal of yoga. But yeah, what if 5 years later, I decide to walk on the wild side again? Then I've blown my spiritual life, and also I'll have gone 5 years without material indulgence. So I've lost both ways. That fear is there. That kind of fear of missing out. What do the Bhakti Yoga preceptors say about this? They say, better just a few moments in bhakti than none at all. You don't have to fail. You don't have to drop it. But even if you do, you're better off than not doing it, not doing anything in bhakti. Better a beginning, because that beginning will always stay with you. So in this way, you can't lose. But what about material endeavors? You lose everything. Nothing, no kind of material gain will stick with you. Companionship, wealth, fame, all goes out the window at the time of death, which can come at any moment. So why gamble on material life when you're going to be wiped out anyway? The intelligent person thinks like that. What am I actually losing if I take up the spiritual path as Krishna prescribes it? What am I losing? My material assets I'm going to lose anyway. My material body I'm going to lose. So why not use my temporary body for the greatest gain? That's being practical. That's being intelligent. So please, final note, don't let FOMO and YOLO get you down. Please regain your life. Get a life. Grab your life back from the clutches of YOLO and FOMO. You'll always win with Krishna. The more knowledge you get about Krishna, the more you'll see that. The knowledge leads to experience. So as you're walking around New Govardhana and you see the various creatures, understand they are expressing their potential. They're trying to fulfill their potential. But your human expression is different. Make sure it's different, please. Thank you very much. So, any questions? You heard my confession of life in New York City. Nothing. Yes.
You were talking about just following the Bhakti, and so how could we find the balance, or how could we be funding to be here, to have a place like this, and to support Krishna as well? Like, to me, that is just my understanding. Like, how could we financially be supporting this if we were all just in the Bhakti journey?
Just like the creatures on the farm here are taken care of, similarly, if you understand that your life is meant for self-realization, for Krishna consciousness, you are taken care of somehow, as long as you agree to live simply. You're living according to the purpose the universe intends for you, and therefore the universe takes care of you. When you are violating the plan of the universe, you get so many impediments thrown in your path, and that's what's happening these days. Ecological havoc, pandemic havoc, because we're not living according to our natural purpose. If we know how to live simply and we dedicate our life to Krishna's pleasure, the all-attractive Krishna's pleasure, you're taken care of. You don't see the frogs and the birds around here in anxiety, do you? They're taken care of by nature. But Krishna promises in Bhagavad Gita, he takes care of his Bhakti yogis. He does it personally. Even the creatures wandering around here, you see, they're taken care of by nature. Shouldn't a human being be taken care of? Try it, you'll see. Anything else? Yes.
I must live under a rock because I have no idea what YOLO. What is YOLO?
You only live once.
Oh, thank you.
What do you think?
Hope not.
But you got to do better than that. You got to find out for sure. For maximum benefit to your life, you need to find out for sure. Where is your baby body?
Oh,
Yes, Krishna gives this example at the beginning of Bhagavad Gita. Where's your teenage body? So similarly, when your present body is gone, you'll still go on. All your life so far you've had experience that even though your body changes, your basic core identity remains the same. So why should that stop at the change of body known as death? This is basic Bhagavad Gita, the prime Bhakti Yoga text. Think about that example that Krishna gives. The baby has a future to become a boy or girl. The boy or girl has a future to become a teenager. The teenager has a future to become a young adult. So on and so on and so on. Why does it stop at death? The body has changed so many times. Scientists point out that every so many years, every cell in your body changes, even the brain. Still, you have that basic core identity. If you were living in a house that was very comfortable, very luxurious, you and your partner, but there's only one catch, and you explained to your partner while you were glorifying the house, isn't this great where we live? Oh, so luxurious. All the facilities are there. Only one minor inconvenience. We could be kicked out at any moment. We don't know when. Don't worry about that, though. What would your partner say?
I haven't got a partner.
I know, but...
I don't know. I mean,
that's why you don't have one. I'll tell you what the partner would say, like, what the hell are you talking about, you know? How can we live in a place in which any time of the day or night, without warning, we can be kicked out? But it's so luxurious. Think of the moment. Be in the moment. No, I want a lease. How long is the lease for on this flat or this house? But when it comes to future after death, well, what happens, happens, you know. Who can say? This is how foolish we are. So yoga discipline and meditational practice begins with our confronting these issues about basic human expression. All right, if there are no more questions, we can have a little kirtan. Fantastic. Thank you so much for your attentiveness.